accepted, challenge accepted. The attitude is always challenge accepted. Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. The attitude is always challenge accepted.
You might remember this next speaker from last year, where he brought down the house down with automation tips and magic trips.
He is a test automation engineer at Trivago in Germany, and he has been coding since the days of 20 megabyte hard drives. I repeat, megabyte.
This year, he is going to show us how time-tested tools like Selenium, GNU Make, and Bash still have plenty of magic left. They're old but gold.
Like Bulgarian or Kiev, they only get better with age, and you get a headache.
Let's hear it for the man who makes even Bash scripts feel exciting,
Benjamin Bischoff!
Challenge accepted, challenge accepted. The attitude is always challenge accepted.
Hello everyone, hello Challenge Accepted. It's nice to be back. And without further ado, let's jump into the old tools, new tricks topic. So yeah, I know this is boring, but let's get me out of the way quickly. I'm a test automation engineer at Trivago in Germany. I've been in IT for roughly 24 years, 15 as a 100% developer, and then I transitioned slowly into the world of test automation. And I'm a clean code enthusiast, and I still am. So I still identify as a developer, but I have the heart of a QA. These are my views. You don't have to feel the same way as I do. You can disagree, should disagree. And this presentation is more about the why, less about the how. And I'm not against AI. I know AI is a hot topic. I use AI. I'm not against it, but still there's value in older technology. So let's start with the purpose. Why is this talk actually there? And as by the way, this list is generated using AI, so I have no idea if all of that actually exists, but that's not the point. The point is that we have to decide every time what is worth dealing with. And even more important, what is not worth dealing with? What can we just ignore? And this is the challenge, and let's accept it. Ha, you see what I did there? Okay, nobody. Let's check, thank you, one of them. Inside the developer's brain, and I think I'm kind of qualified to do that because I am a developer still. We have a lot of dilemmas as QA engineers and automation engineers. The new is always better dilemma is one of them. And I will talk a lot about dilemmas here. Developers love new things. I think we all do, because learning new things is absolutely crucial. And it expands your arsenal of tools, it gives you new ideas, and you just have more on your belt. And if you look at old tools, they often have this aura of being outdated, unmaintained, less cool, definitely more boring if you look at them, because they have been around for years or even decades. Whereas new tools have this shiny, sparkling innovation. They can be integrated into new things. They can have better support and more upgrades, and they give you a competitive edge. And frankly, it looks good on LinkedIn. It does. Like if you use something for 3 minutes, you can put it on LinkedIn and say, I have used it in my career. That's what's being done. There's a lot of misconception and a lot of bias when dealing with tools and tool choices. One I call the tutorial dilemma. If you start with a new tool or new technology, you see on the webpage a tutorial that shows you the happy path, and the happy path only. And generally, it's a very small problem that it shows that you can solve with it. It's very, very simple, and it can definitely lead to false confidence because you just run those 2-3 lines of code, you say, this is awesome, that is simple, let's use it. Maybe not the best idea. Better idea is to do a proof of concept, like you take part of your current project and you try to fit this solution in, to see it in a real-world environment. And this is absolutely necessary for real evaluation before you can say, let's use it. But this costs a lot of time and resources, of course, to do that, especially when you have to evaluate 5, 10 tools at the same time. And some problems may not show up in a proof of concept. They can only show up in a full-blown project. And that happened to me too. Management might confuse it with a real implementation. We did a proof of concept. Management saw it, said, when can we ship it? And we said, no, it's just for throwing away and redoing. And you might be aware of the sunk cost fallacy, which is a psychological thing. If you invest a lot of time and resources and effort into something, into learning something, it gives you a justification for commitment. That means you feel like you have to use it now because you spent so many resources into it. But that is also a danger, because it might not be the best tool that you invested so much time and effort in, but still you want to use it. This you're probably all aware of, Maslow's hammer. It's a very well-known quote of Abraham Maslow. He said, I suppose it is tempting if the only tool you have is a hammer to treat everything as if it were a nail. So if you just learned a shiny new tool, you want to use it for everything. You want to throw it at every problem you see. And this is also dangerous. And you have the tractor factor, which is commonly called bus factor, but a colleague of mine coined this term, which I like better because it rhymes. If you are the only one in your team, in your company, that knows about a specific tool, and you get run over by a tractor, yeah, nobody knows about this anymore. And you have this knowledge gap. So this is another question to ask yourself. Do I want to be the only one who knows all of it? And of course, then get bombarded with questions about this tool all the time? Or do I need to teach the whole team, which again takes time and resources? And on the other side, you have the ambiguity effect, because we're all humans, at least I hope so, and we mistrust options we don't know. And it takes some time to make us believe in the good sides of a new option to avoid uncertainty. So you have, on the one side, the tractor factor, on the other side, the ambiguity effect. And you have unknowns. And the unknowns are really important when talking about tools. Commonly, it is said to find a tool that fits your problem. But it is not easy to do that, especially if you have hundreds of tools to choose from. So you have to look at the known and unknown unknowns. I will tell you what that means in case you don't know. You have known unknowns in software. Like, if we have 10,000 requests per second, I don't know what will happen, or 100,000 or 1,000,000. But you know at one point it will break. This is a known unknown. You just don't know when it will happen. Then you have the unknown unknowns, which might be, I had no idea that turning on this option would cause memory leaks. This is just something you cannot anticipate. And Dan McKinley did a presentation in 2015 about boring technology, and he said both sets, so the unknown and the known unknowns, are typically non-empty, even for tech that's existed for decades. But for shiny new technology, the magnitude of unknown unknowns is significantly larger. So for new technology, there's more that you don't know. So yes, find the tool that fits your problem, but it does not have to be a shiny new tool. Because old tools can be more reliable, they can be way more familiar, They can be more compatible because they have been around much longer. More cost-effective because you don't have to teach the whole team if you've used them for years already. And they can have a great community, like Selenium, for example, which has one of the friendliest communities out there. Dan McKinley again said, the nice thing about boringness is that the capabilities of these things are well understood. But more importantly, their failure modes are well understood, which is just another way of saying, yes, we know about the unknowns. So I thought, how can I try it? How can I demonstrate it? And I thought, let's go back to the future. So I set up this task, create a browser test so I can use it locally and in a GitHub workflow. It's a very common thing among test automation engineers and QA engineers. So yeah, how did that get here? I wrote a book. Shameless plug. It's not about the book, but you can buy it. It is about my website that is about the book, because that is the part I want to test. So I want to click on the link on my homepage for the book and then check if the second headline is what is this book about. That is just my simple test case. So I will use Selenium. Yes, I know. I still use it. I love it. I've tried other things. Selenium is still my number one. If you ask Microsoft Copilot, it says Selenium is a free open source automated testing framework used to validate web applications across different browsers and platforms. And this is completely wrong. Maybe you noticed this, but Selenium is just a way to automate a browser. They even say this on their website. It's not a testing tool, it's not a testing framework, it's not comparable to Playwright or something else. It is its own thing. And let's look at the timeline. This is me, 1978. Now you know how old I am. This is Selenium. So Selenium is already 20 years old. Same year as Spider-Man 2 came out, for reference. The original Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Okay, this is a very simple Selenium script. So we create a Chrome driver to open a Chrome window. We open my website. Then we find the element by link text, writing API test with Karate, click on it, and then we check the second headline and just do an assertion if it says what I expect it to say. And then with the driver quit, I close the browser window. It's very, very simple. And this is actually how you run it. And this is the original speed. So it opens the browser, and that's it. Not sped up. Selenium is super, super quick if you use it correctly. So let's go a step further in the project, but a step back in time. And let's put Maven on top of it. What is Maven? I again asked Copilot because it gave me such a perfect wrong answer before. Maven is a software project management and comprehension tool that provides developers a complete build lifecycle framework. This time, parts of it is true, which is nice. So in terms of the timeline, it's before Selenium, 2 years before. So also quite old, but not as old as I am. Same year as Spider-Man came out, by the way. Again, the original one. This is the part I like about Maven the most. It's the dependency management. So you can just say, my project should use Selenium Java, and I also slap JUnit on top of it to make it a real test. Before that, it was just a piece of code that you run, but not a unit test that you can use in a pipeline. And this is how you run it. You do Maven clean test. In this case, I used the Maven wrapper, but this is not the important part. But this is how easy it is to run it. And I also did a little more on top of it because I thought, how can we maybe make this more user-friendly and a little better? So before each, that runs before every test, we create a new Chrome driver. So each test would run in a new window, in a new dedicated browser window. And then after each test, automatically we close that browser, and that's it. And the rest is pretty much the same as before. But now I use a JUnit assertion as well. But again, this is not the important part. The important part is that we now have Selenium and Maven together. This is how you run it. You do Maven clean test, and then it checks all the dependencies, downloads them if you don't have them, and that's it. So now you have all the dependency management handled as well. Isn't that nice? I think Maven is pretty cool because, like I said, it's easy dependency management. It has reduced duplication. It's all XML. I know XML, but I like it because it's readable by humans and computers. You don't have to worry about spacing, which is also nice. By the way, XML came to be in 1996, so also old. And it's very straightforward in terms of built-in test flows. I much prefer it over Gradle. Yeah, I see, sorry. Because Maven does less. Maven does exactly one thing, and it does it well. It has a very simple structure to follow, it has a very simple flow to follow, and that's what I like. Let's go even further back in time, but let's go forward in terms of the project with Bash. Yeah, again, Copilot. Bash, an acronym for Born Again Shell, which is right. It's a command line interpreter that provides a user interface for various operating systems, which is kind of weird, but let's see what it is. Timeline? Oh, we're getting closer to my birth. It's 1989. Can you guess what movie I found? It's not Spider-Man, it's Batman. And this is, I didn't deliberately look for superhero movies, but this is what came up when I said what was the top movie of that year. And it says Batman. Yeah, let's expand a little bit before we go into Bash. So WebDriver selection. So before that, we always used Chrome, but let's now get a system property called browser, and depending on this property, if it's Firefox, we fire up a Firefox driver. If it's Chrome, we fire up a Chrome driver, and so on and so on. The nice thing about Selenium, and you might hear some more about this in the talk right afterwards, is that the WebDriver management is built in, so that if you don't have the WebDrivers on your system or in the pipeline for those, it will download them, and it will even download the browsers. So, very nice thing. That is an old tool with a new thing on top. This is how you run it now in Maven. So you can actually pass a browser system property with the -d flag. So if you do browser Firefox, that will open a Firefox browser. I will show you. This is how you would do it in a Bash script, which has just a little overhead. I also log here running tests with browsers something, so you know what it's doing. And this is the Maven command, the last line. But I have here the $1, which is the first parameter that is passed to the Bash script. And this is how you run it as a Bash script. So it is, in my case, in a file called runtests.sh for shell. And then you just have Firefox after it, and this is passed to the Bash script, this is passed to Maven, and this is passed to Selenium. So this would look like this. So runtests.sh Firefox takes a little bit of time to spin up, but not significant. especially if you have more than one test, would only do it once. And this is still the original speed that it runs. So again, it's really, really fast. And it's running against my online website. It's not something local, it's online. So why is Bash so cool, even though it's so old? Well, it's the default shell in most Linux systems, also on macOS. So you can use it there, and on every Linux, every CI/CD pipeline on Jenkins, whatever you want to do. It's a very powerful scripting language. It has lots of built-in commands. You can use all the Linux commands in it, and it has pipes and redirections. That means you can use the output of one command and send it right to the next command, which is very convenient. Because Unix has this philosophy of write programs that do one thing and do it well, and write programs to work together. And that's why I also like Maven, why I like Bash, why I like Selenium, because they do one thing very well. Let's go even further back in time. Make. Make is applicable to any process that involves executing arbitrary commands to transform a source file to a target result. That sounds really complicated, and this is from Wikipedia. It is complicated, but it is true. So you have to decide what you want, truth and easy, or you want... Okay, timeline. Do you have an idea where Make is? No? It is there. It's 1974. Hooray! It's older than I am. So I'm not the oldest tool in this. Yeah, 1974. 50 years already, and it still works like a charm. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out the same year. I didn't find a superhero movie, and this doesn't mean anything. Make is still great, but this is the only one I found, yeah. This is a Make file, a typical one. It is a very simple one, but this shows everything that it does. You have targets in Make, you have help and test, and help will just print out some help, and test will trigger the Maven command. Well, it looks like the Maven command, but it's actually the Bash command, because every line in a Make file is executed in the shell. So this brings all of it together. Also, you notice that we have the browser system property here, but it's here a little different. Before that, we used the $1, but now we use the $ and parentheses browser. And this is set here. So that means if you don't pass anything to the Make file, it will use Chrome. If you pass anything else, then you have to type browser equals something. It will use that other browser. So you can have a default here, which is nice. This is how you would run it with a specific browser. Make test, which is the target. Browser equals Firefox. If you just run Make without any target, it will just pick the first one. So you can see it here. I just run Make, and it gives me the help. And then if I do Make test browser equals Edge this time, why not? It will run it in Edge. And now we have everything together. This is something that you can use locally, that you can use on GitHub Actions, GitHub Workflows. You can use that on Jenkins. You can use that on pretty much all the CI/CD systems. And Make is pretty cool because, again, it has a small number of features. And if it has a small number of features, there's less that you can do wrong. It's available everywhere, pretty much. Even on Windows, it's a little more tricky, but I wouldn't recommend Windows for test automation anyways. Yeah, we can talk about that in the speaker's corner. It's a good entry point for tracing the execution flow of the application, and it has a well-defined proxy for underlying technologies. What I mean by that is if you use make on top of everything, you can have the same command for everything. You can do make test, and that triggers a Selenium test. It can trigger jest, playwright, whatever you want, but it is consistent across all the projects, which we actually use it for like this at Trivago. Yeah, AI, yeah, it's a love-hate relationship we have. I tested quite a lot. I use AI daily in my job. Mostly at the moment I use GitHub Copilot, that was already mentioned, and Google Gemini. And it has, again, a dilemma, because I love dilemmas. It helps you with things you already know. Like what it was mentioned before in the previous talk, you have to know about it, you have to check it, you have to run it, and you have to feed what happened back to the AI, so you can, in this conversation, get a good solution. It hallucinates much more than you think, especially when it comes to code. It makes up so much code that does not work, that doesn't exist, that uses classes and methods that nobody ever implemented. It just thinks, okay, yeah, sounds about right. But if you treat it like an extended rubber duck, you tell it your problem and you have a conversation about it, it is really, really helpful. And those bearded men, yeah, this, we tried just to test it. We gave it the prompt, please generate a group of men without beards and a group of women with beards. Don't ask me why, but this is what it came up with. We were not able to generate men without beards. If you know a good prompt that can do it, please let me know. But this is the thing, AI knows so much more about old tools. It is a brand new tool, but it knows more about old tools. It has way more information about the older tools and libraries, because it has access to all the data, like from Stack Overflow. It knows all the questions, it knows all the answers. Many use cases have been covered in many different configurations, and this is why it has a less chance of hallucination if you ask it about older tools. Some final thoughts in the end. Please be aware about biases, not only when you have human interaction, but also when it comes to tools. And be aware about the psychological problems that may come with it, so you can make an objective decision. Choose tools very carefully. Don't let a simple tutorial blind you. Try it out in a bigger use case. Compare different tools like AI solutions and find the one that fits best. Don't let familiarity hold you back. If you know something very well, this does not mean you shouldn't use it anymore and try something new. It can be a good idea if you want to try something new, but be aware that expertise in a thing is very beneficial. And finally, decouple progress from technology. Like I showed you, you can move forward in a project by using tools and libraries that are older and older and older. So you should maybe talk more about the progress and less about what you used. And with that, thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes for questions.
2 minutes?
There is a question there.
Oh no, a question.
No, you will get a microphone in 2 minutes. Here, applause for the running microphone.
Test. Very simple question. Challenging times, obviously the IT is in the situation that it's in. How would you say the choosing of something should be affected by the time management or the time expectation given on our project slash work done or whatever, because plain simple example, something that used to be done in 2 years, a couple of years ago, now is demanded to be done in like 2 months. How do we choose something smarter in these cases?
So you mean in general, like if you have less time for something, how you can choose?
Because I can implement Java Selenium, I can make tons and tons of dependencies and make that beautiful framework that's for which I'll need like 20 months, but I don't have that time now. I have 2 months to have sufficient testing, to have automation as well, and sufficient framework that I can then pass to the client and then whoever team works with it afterwards.
This is, for me, is really hard to answer because I work in a company that tests its own stuff only. We don't work for clients. For that, it's really, really tricky, I think. But there, it also helps, I think, if you can find good reasons to say, I'm an expert in this technology. With this, I will be quicker. But sorry, I cannot give you a better answer because it's just not my experience.
It's actually a trick question because it's, and I see a lot, even though I'm seeing you, I see peripheral, a lot of nodding. So I guess this is a trick for everybody nowadays. But either way, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Let's
you.
end Benjamin Bischoff with a big round of applause, and thank you one more time. Benjamin
Thank you.
Bischoff,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.